Hello, I am Mandaya. I am from CSAML section. My topic name is Attributes of Non-Listeners. Here in this picture we can see a, there is a discussion between two colleagues, but the other colleague is a non-listener and looking at the phone, and the other colleague is explaining about the project. So now we will see some points about non-listeners, and now we will see the types of listeners. Firstly, there is active listeners and passive listeners, non-listeners and evaluative listeners. And active listeners means the listener which listen accurately and who understands the concept what the speaker is telling. Passive listeners means which listens from the one ear and leaves from another ear is passive listeners. And non-listeners doesn't listen about what a speaker is telling, and evaluative listeners are the listeners which always finds a logic. And now let's get into the topic. Non-listeners. Non-listeners do not listen to all because they are genuinely disinterested in the subject. These people pretend to listen to the speaker, but in actual they are actually preoccupied in something else and engaged in information other than the one that is needed. The non-listeners do not listen to all because they are genuinely disinterested in the subject. These people pretend to listen to the speaker, but in actual they are preoccupied with something else and engaged in information other than the one that is needed. And here are some type of listeners. First one is active listener, passive listener, non-listener, marginal listener, and evaluative listener. As we have discussed this one in previous, and here is a new one which is marginal listener, which listens marginally, which the person who listens very less to the speaker are called marginal listeners. And let's get into the topic, non-listeners. Now we will see the types of listeners. And first one is pseudo listener, and next one is monopolizing listener, and third one is selective listener, and fourth one is defensive listener, and fifth one is ambushing, ambushing and literal listener. Now we will see a brief info about the these types of listeners. Firstly, we will see what is pseudo-type listening, and then we will see monopolizing listener, and then selective listener, and defensive listener, and ambushing and literal listener. Then we can decide which listener are you. Now we will see what is pseudo listening. Pseudo listening is a type of non-listening that consists of appearing attentive in conversation while actually ignoring or only partially listening to the other speaker. The intent of pseudo listening is not to listen, but to cater to some other personal need of the listener. So thus, this pseudo-listening tells about the type of non-listener that consists of appearing attentive in the conversation while actually ignoring or only partially listening to the other speaker. This intent of pseudo-listening is not to listen but to cater to some other personal need of the listener. And in this picture, we can see there is a meeting between the colleagues and head. So now we will see what is monopolizing listen. The monopolizing listener is a continuously focusing communication on ourselves instead of listening to the person who is talking. Two tactics are typical of monopolizing. One is conversational rerouting, in which a person shifts the topic back to himself or herself. The monopolizing is a continuously focusing communication on ourselves instead of listening to the person who is talking. Two tactics are typically of monopolizing. One is conversational rerouting, in which a person shifts the topic back to himself or herself. In this picture, you can see a person is talking to a woman and another person is not listening to the speaker. Then she explains about the persons that he only listens when he talks, and this is monopolizing. Now we will see about selective listening. Selective listening is when you focus your attention on some specific information. It involves consciously or unconsciously choosing to listen to what is relevant to you and ignoring what isn't. It is a skill that anyone can develop and improve. The selective listening is when you focus your attention on some specific information, like the information which is relevant to you, which is important to you, you listen and ignore the other. It involves consciously or unconsciously choosing to listen to the relevant what is relevant to you and ignore what isn't. It is a skill that anyone can develop and improve. Here we can see the selective listening, and when we want to listen the information which is relevant to us, then we can listen. Here the selective listening is the information relevant to us we listen and we ignore the other information. Now, now we will see about defensive listening. Defensive listening, talking innocent comments as personal attacks. Taking innocent comments as personal attacks. Listeners misinterpret or project feelings of insecurity, jealousy, and guilt, or lack of confidence in other person. And defensive listening, taking innocent comments as personal attacks. Listeners misinterpret or project takes project feelings of insecurity, jealousy, and guilt or lack of confidence in the other person. Now we will see about ambushing and literal listening. Firstly, we will see ambushing. Ambushing is careful and attentive listening of collect information that can be used against the other person as an attack. Listeners question, contradict, or oppose the other persons to trap them or use their own words against him. Ambition, careful and attentive listening to collect information that can be used against the other person as an attack. Listeners question, contradict, or oppose the other person to trap them or use their own words against them. And here we can see the mechanism of listening. Firstly, we will receive the voice from the speaker, and then it goes to first stage of our brain, which understands the voice of listening. Then we will go to second stage, which is remembering. We will try to remember the concept or information what the speaker tells. Then after the third one is evaluating. We will try to evaluate in the life, and we will try to recollect the information which the speaker tells. And the last one is feedback. We give a feedback that how the speaker's information is useful or not, and so on. I hope you all understand about the attributes of non-listeners. Thank you.